So it's down with the sickness me. Well, to understand what the sickness is all about, you're going to have to understand how fly fishing evolved for me. So the evolution of fly fishing for me was first I started with about 6 years ago, I went on a guided trip. And I went on a guided trip with this guy named Austin who took me out fly fishing for carp. And I mean, we threw these tiny flies for some carp, and finally, I got the hook up. And it took me about 20 or so minutes to land this big carp. And it was just exhilarating. You had that fly rod was bent in the shape of a U, and it was stripping line. It's just an amazing experience for me. And from that very moment, I was addicted to fly fishing. I just got rid of all my spinning gear, all of it, all my spinning gear. Dude, I don't think I've ever seen a angle like that ever. So I started looking into what fish are in the waters in my backyard, and I started with smallmouth. All the rivers around here in northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin are chock full of smallmouth. And it's a great way to get started because smallmouth are pretty much indifferent when it comes to fly fishing. If you put something in front of them that looks anything like what they're feeding on, they're gonna hit that fly. So it didn't take me long to figure out how to catch smallmouth, and then kind of figure out how to catch big smallmouth. You know, a lot of things when I was smallmouth fishing, I learned a lot about reading the water and figuring out where the smallmouth are going to lie at what times of year, what their feeding patterns are. And probably, 2 or 3 or 4 years into fly fishing, I was having a lot of success chasing smallmouth. What happens when you really start to, or at least for me, is when you really start to master chasing a certain species of fish, I don't want to say it gets boring, but it's less exciting, right? So there's 2 avenues you can take at that point. You can start searching for really, really big smallmouth, right? I can go look and start chasing down 20-inch smallmouth, which are pretty rare around here. Or you can evolve into a different type of fly fishing. And for me, I started to evolve or start chasing pike into pike. And how that got triggered was one day I was fishing for smallmouth, and I had a deer hair diver on, and a pretty decent sized pike just blew up on that deer hair diver. Just made my heart skip a beat. And at that point I was like, there's much more to pike than I ever believed or ever thought there was. You know, in these waters I've caught, you know, a lot of little like 18-inch pike, and I never got the sickness. Never got the addiction to pike fishing. It wasn't until that pike blew up on that deer hair diver and made my heart skip a beat that I figured that there's so much more to pike. And that's what began my addiction. Because there is nothing, when a pike hits that fly and it makes your heart skip a beat and your adrenaline's rushing, that's what it's all about. That's the sickness. The thing about it is, a lot of people are immune to the sickness because it takes so much work. I mean, you throw and throw and throw and throw big flies on heavier weight rods trying to catch these pike. So many people just don't get into it. They want that immediate gratification. You know, they want to be catching fish immediately. And with pike, there's days you're not even going to turn a fish. Dancing with the devil is a term that I use, or a phrase that I've coined for this small water pike fishing. You know, I personally believe, and everybody thinks I'm crazy, that there's 40-inch pike in these small waters in my backyard. And I've come pretty close, come real close to a 40-inch pike. But there's something about being in the water, waiting, being in the water, casting the fly, and seeing that pike explode on your fly in skinnier waters where you're in the water. It's just more intimate. That's what it really comes down to. And it's more of a dance. Fly fishing is really a dance. There's a lot of timing involved. There's a lot of rhythm that's required. And when you get a big pike on and you get them in, you're in the water with them, and you're trying to land them, and they'll run you in circles sometimes. You're trying to reach down and tail them. They'll make you run in a circle. And it's just so much fun. I just can't explain it. It's like being one with the pike. I know it sounds silly, but there's really something to it. And that's what I'm talking about when dancing with the devil. And it's really, the skinny water, small water pike fishing's really found a special place in my heart. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna go start fishing the big waters, looking for big pike, like 50-inch pike. But I always have a place in my heart for dancing with the devil.